Yeah, absolutely. I think you touch upon something very interesting. In my last conversations with Akbar, and like we've had other like sessions in the series, we talked about like, like for example, Akbar was mentioning how client retention really helps you with just your personal energy. Just the fact that you have that recurring revenue that is more solidified. He just went through losing his sister, last year because of cancer. So like having that stability with his clients was super important, right? I think you mentioned on something like super interesting when it comes to the client retention. But one of the things that you mentioned there is just like how important this is, even if you want to exit your business, right? So a lot of us in digital marketing, we're looking at our business and businesses in general, right? Like we're building this, whether it's for legacy, but we always have to have that exit in mind, right? Like how do we make sure that whenever we're creating our SOPs, our processes, if we never know, right? If you want to sell it or if something happens to you, like you're ready to like take that next step. So let's talk a little bit about best practices when it comes to client retention that you have applied or learned as you have gone through your own clients.
Yeah, and to speak to your point, I mean, I had a Facebook reel about this today. MRR is everything in business. You don't want to run a business where you're just getting one-time projects from different customers. Extremely hard to scale. And if you go to exit, people care about MRR. They want to know what clients stick around, how long they stick around for, and that's got to be the focus. And Connor and I don't start any business unless there's a reoccurring revenue component, and that's a good test for whether a business is sustainable, whether you can keep people around. So
Yeah.
for us, it's about setting really good expectations up front. I think a lot of people fail to do that, whether it's our monthly bookkeeping quote, for example. We want to say, hey, this is how much it's going to be up front. This is how long it's going to take to set up your books. This is exactly what you should expect step by step by step. And I go by the mentality that entrepreneurs are busy. Entrepreneurs don't read everything. Entrepreneurs skim stuff. So everything that's very important that we want people to know, we mention it at multiple points. It's in the initial quote. It's mentioned by our controller during the kickoff call. Once the kickoff call is over, they get an email having them confirm all the notes from the kickoff call that has that exact same information again. So if someone comes back to us down the line and is like, you never said this, or the books are taking too long, I'm like, here's 3 different places where you agreed to these terms, and the expectations are very black and white and clear. And that's a big part of it. And it also just helps eliminate people that aren't in line with the expectations. If it's going to take you a long time to get going, or if you have a certain expectation and someone's not going to be aligned with that, you don't want to take them as a client.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. For me, I'm also upfront and honest with every client I talk to. I say, we are only interested in working with clients that want to work with us long-term. Like monthly bookkeeping, we won't take on anyone who's just a catch-up cleanup project. And I even tell them, like, my ask to you is don't sign up with us unless you plan on working with us long-term. Now, obviously, we have to deliver. Obviously, their business could go out of business, and there's other factors there. But if I get any kind of sense that they're looking at this in the short term, especially stuff like our SEO business where SEO is a long-term play, I'm avoiding those clients from the beginning. So it does start with that initial setup. I'm sure you got some thoughts there, but that's my mentality.
Yeah, no, I think intention matters so much, because at the end of the day, like you're going to go through difficult times in business. And I think the expectations from our end, especially, one of the things I've learned in business is like, how you act, like, that you're going to have, especially like if you have your values in line, and like you have an understanding of like what it means to be like a respected human, like you know what you would do when adversity comes. And the thing is that we don't know that from other people. Like we cannot expect the same from others. So that's why setting expectations, it's so crucial and important in our businesses. And I think you touched upon something that's really important. Just like the retention really happens at the sales. Like it really starts from the sales perspective, knowing that you have the right client, knowing that you set up the right expectations, but that you're also understanding that there's a mutual understanding, right, of what happens if. Now let's talk about like I think like when let's say like you've gone through that, right, and they're the right client or the right fit. How do you ensure that in whichever of your businesses that you are creating that experience for those clients to be retained, to like stay with you for a long time?
Yeah, one other point before I forget it, and I mean, this doesn't necessarily help with client retention, but it's a good policy to have. All my businesses have 30 days notice if you want to cancel. So there's always one more billing. If like all our clients get billed on the first of the month, today is January 25th. If a client cancels today, they're still going to get charged on February 1st, whether they stop working with us or not. And that buys us a whole month to replace them as a client. So we're never in a situation where we just all of a sudden our MRR just dropped down because the clients drop. We don't really have a turnover problem, but it just kind of protects us from that. So whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, have something like that baked in. It's very reasonable. You're not trying to screw someone over. I mean, you plan your months ahead of time. You got payroll that you've got locked in. So
right. You have people that are depending on you. It's the same for them. Like if they're true business owners, right? Like they should expect the same, like they wouldn't want to lose their own clients, just like like that, just really quick.
Yeah, 99% of people understand it and it's no big deal. So put that into your terms of use if you haven't already. For us, it's about feedback. We want to know every possible issue before it becomes a bigger issue. Where every email my bookkeepers send, they're always asking for feedback. Whenever they submit books, they're asking for feedback. On Free Up, when we would match up a VA and a freelancer, we'd have a check-in 2 weeks, a month, 3 months out. And when things do come up, it's all about fixing it and making people whole early. I haven't had a lot of real jobs, but one job I did have was at Firestone, and they always had the mentality of playing the long game over short-term profit. And that's how I really approach business. I would much rather give someone a $25, $50, $100 credit now that's going to make them feel like I took care of them and have them stick around for the next 3 years than to lose someone over that $100 and save a little bit of money. So with Free Up, for example, we were really good at that. 99% of our clients would be happy. But if someone hired a graphic designer and the design didn't come out great, I would say, hey, here's a $100 credit to a new graphic designer. And all of a sudden they'd be like, wow, Upwork's not doing that. Fiverr's not doing that. They'll hire that new graphic designer and hopefully work with them years to come. If a VA quit, we would cover replacement costs and get them to stay with us. We'll pay to train the next VA, but then they've got this VA trained and they're going to stick around for years to come. So for us, it's all about how do I make sure people are happy by giving them those short-term wins in order to keep them around long-term.